Hello everybody, welcome to the program. This is November 22nd, 2022. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for staying with us. This is WESN and you're getting ready to watch this edition of AM Prime. Let's tell you what's happening. We're talking with a man in the second hour of the program on something called Urban Reality, Afro Youths versus the Police. That's a book that he's written, Khalil Saif. He says Trinidad and Tobago is a narco state and everyone from, well, not everyone, but people from top to bottom in all sectors of this society at all ranks are involved. He says that has led to what he calls a culture of extrajudicial killings in the country, that and more in this publication. We get to that on the other side of it. We're also talking with Pundit Rudranath Maharaj, because he's emerged as the spokesperson for the organization known as the Concerned Citizens for a Better San Fernando. They are pushing back hard against an apparent decision by government agencies to erect a school on what they say has been devoted as a green space in the middle of a colony of schools in the country in a part of San Fernando. So we'll talk with him about what's the latest on that, given developments that were announced a couple of days ago by representatives of the government. And we also talking with Mr. Sean Sobers. He's a former opposition senator. He's an attorney at law. And he's talking about the fact that the witness protection program in the country is in a poor state. He's looking at the fact that somebody who ought to have been protected by the state as a witness in cases was taken out last week. Of course, we take you around the region. We tell you what's in today's edition of the Newsday newspaper, our partners in this organization. Those things and more in the program. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union.
Get an easy zero-interest Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
At Belgroves, celebrating life is our commitment with integrity, compassion, and dignity for your loved ones. Belgroves Funeral Home and Crematorium, serving Trinidad and Tobago for over a century.
Fan Zone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the home store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's. WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Whether it's your family meet and eat or your own personal getaway retreat, a business trip, accommodation, or a couple's celebration, the Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa has room for you. There's always sumptuous, delicious cuisine and the gym and tennis court for a good workout routine. Then relax by the pool or on the private beach, or just head to the spa. It's also within reach. The Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, Tobago's best beach resort. For reservations, call 639-8571 or check our website.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Make every occasion a sparkling celebration with Rosabella alcohol-free wine.
Toast cheers with hourglass rays. Rosabella, live life with Rosabella sparkling drink. Celebrate!
Welcome back to the program. Let's just tell you this. More resources are needed to be placed towards improving the state's witness protection program. That's according to former opposition senator, attorney Sean Sobers. He said the system is poorly managed and news that state witnesses continue to be killed is worrisome. He said it also shows that the government is bankrupt providers, and he was speaking at a news conference organized by the Opposition United National Congress a couple of days ago. He was heavily critical of the government's handling of the state witness protection program. He's with us now. Mr. Sobers, good to see you.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson, and good morning to your viewers and listeners this morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, you're very welcome. So what do you want to see happen? You say that more resources need to be put into the program. Like what, for instance? How can it be made better?
All right, so we have to understand that what is the position that witnesses play as it pertains to prosecution within the criminal justice system. For persons to be convicted successfully, it is in my considered view that it is a combination of two specific things. It is really anchored to evidence, but the evidence comes in different forms, and generally it is in the form of witness evidence that is given, witness testimony, and forensic evidence that the police may in fact advance at the trial. The issue that I have learned reliably from persons within the witness protection program is that you do in fact have a lot of persons who are minded to come forward, having seen something, to say something, which is what we encourage in the opposition. What I said on Sunday was in no way at all ever meant to dissuade persons from coming forward. But the issue is that when persons do in fact come forward, and they have to be assimilated within the witness protection program, the program is underfunded, it is under-resourced. Essentially, we live in a very small island, and it is not a strange thing that there are in fact criminal elements that have relations with some police officers. The majority of police officers, as I said on Sunday, are extremely hardworking individuals, diligent at what they do, and perform fantastic. However, there are situations where some criminal elements have relations with police officers, and the nature of the program was designed, at least in terms of how it would have been advanced between 10 and 15, would have been to be taken under the Ministry of Justice. And so it was resourced under the Ministry of Justice, and the majority of its operations was kept away or separated or siloed away from the CTPS. Currently now, there is under the present administration, that program has been assimilated under the Ministry of National Security. And for whatever reason, it is not receiving the resources that it desires. And so you have officers within the Southern Division who are attached to that particular unit, actually operating, initially launching out of a particular police station, And they have extreme concerns with respect to the fact that they shouldn't be doing that. It should be that they are located at a clandestine location, launching their activities, going to whichever households they may have to go to organize to protect these witnesses, to safeguard them for their testimony.
So is that sorry to butt in on you like this, but is that to say that these persons are not trusting of their colleagues otherwise?
I wouldn't say that they're not trusting of their colleagues. No, what I'm saying is that the potential or the propensity or the ability then for an errant individual, I mean, at the end of the day, the TTPS is a human organization. And in any human organization, you're going to have bad eggs. So it's not to say that they are not trusting of their colleagues per se, but the possibility that may arise where an individual located within the station may not even be a police officer. It could be one of the adjunct staff that works at police stations, may have a relationship with a particular criminal element who has an interest in seeing that witness not give evidence against him or his gang or whatever the case may be. And so to launch from that particular station to go to a particular house where this witness has to be protected, it causes a severe security concern for those officers. And then even at the house locations, whether it be in north or in south, they are significantly under-resourced. So I was shocked and appalled to learn that in terms of stocking of the homes, it is not done by the state. A stipend is paid to the witness, and the witness is expected to procure the essentials and the sundry and whatnot for the home within which they stay. And when their money runs out, unfortunately, it's the police officers who are there. They are the ones that would require to maybe have a little tea or coffee, some cricks or something like that. And they would have to go out and purchase these things on their own. And that's why when I said on Sunday, the particular individual that I spoke to, he has complained that essentially he's mining two houses. He's mining the witness protection house and he's mining his house at home. And it is unfortunate, it is unfair, and it shouldn't be what is a democratic society, one that we appreciate the essential need or the essential testimony from witnesses. If we need to have them come forward, they must be assured then that they are going to be protected, that they are going to be comfortable, and that they are going to be able to do what they are supposed to do in a very meaningful way with the assistance of the state.
Yeah, so going to this a little bit, so that police officers are taken out of the police service and put in a unit that is run by the Ministry of National Security. So they're not police officers in that sense anymore.
They are police officers, but what happens is in terms of their reporting requirements or conditions, it changes a bit. So it is a quasi-arrangement between the Ministry of National Security, a unit which is called the agency, and the TTPS. The agency is run by a civilian, getting resources from the Ministry of National Security, and the reporting conditions by the TTPS officers attached, some being regular police officers, some being SRP officers, but they report specifically to this agency. That is how I understand the system to operate currently under this particular administration.
What is your view on the inclusion in that of SRPs, which are Special Reserve Police Officers? When I was growing up, people used to refer to it as something resembling a police officer. People didn't take too kindly of SRPs in certain functions in the police service.
I disagree with that. SRPs serve an essential role within the police service. They're extremely hardworking individuals. As a matter of fact, one of the persons that I spoke to is in fact an SRP who's attached to this particular witness protection program and has been there for quite some time. He was someone who also had an issue with the fact that unfortunately, in terms of the role that he has played, there's a bit of discrepancy as it pertains to remuneration insofar as that the regular police officers attached to the unit, they are paid certain stipends that increase their pay or salary at the end of the month. And as an SRP, he is not entitled to that, which is a grievance that they've been raising constantly with those in authority, so that they could at least be on the same level with respect to the risks that they take with respect to this particular unit. But across the board, I have always had very pleasant interactions with Special Reserve Police officers. I rubbish down any type of talk that they are something resembling police that is extremely disrespectful to the job that they discharge on a daily basis. At the end of the day, these are the same persons that you expect to run, wherein as a citizen of this country or a human being, your natural response to a situation where bullets are flying is to run away from that. You expect the same SRP who people may be discrediting to run into the bullets to save persons' lives. So I think that more respect should be paid to their portfolio. At the end of the day, they are in fact police officers, and they deserve the respect and the assistance of the public with respect to the duties that they discharge.
Is it still the case that some of them, they have regular jobs and they do that on their off time? But to my understanding, a lot of them do this like full time, but they continue to be regarded as SRPs, right?
Yeah, so they have their grievances. I know that at least I'm loosely informed that that they have been trying to get themselves assimilated as regular police officers. Some of them have been successful in doing so. The part of the trajectory in which they can attain such assimilation for others is quite difficult. So I know that there is a to and fro, a back and forth with respect to sorting those issues out. But as members of the public, we should always be supportive because they are putting their lives on the line, and we should always pay certain due respect and admiration to anybody or individuals who do so on a daily basis.
And what do you know about the people who ostensibly are placed in the witness protection program and don't want to stay because they don't agree with some of the arrangements and the regulations in there? And that is a big thing. And to what extent you know whether that was the case in which this gentleman was killed? Being in the program and he was there because he had seen somebody got shot, a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was
right. I am not informed or about that. As a matter of fact, in terms of that particular individual, as far as I would recall, based upon what I saw in the media and reports coming out, it would have been from his lawyer. His lawyer's position is that the gentleman did in fact ask for witness protection and he never received it. Subsequent to the statements made by the lawyer, and I suspect statements made by members of his family, the media would have reached out to the TTPS to find out what was their position, whether or not, especially in such a high-profile matter, if those claims were true, that being made by the lawyer and the relatives. The acting commissioner of police, I believe it was, and other senior officers within the TTPS would have indicated something contrary. They indicated that, no, he was in fact offered witness protection, but he refused to accept it. My position on either way is really, for me, from what I've heard, the thing is, yes, persons may very well be offered witness protection, but a lot of persons, when they get involved in the program, when they recognize what it is, what they are minded now to give up 6 and 7 years of their lives, depending upon the type of matter that they have to give evidence in, and in conditions that they're going to be living under for 6 and 7 years of their life, they're not minded to do so. And that is the whole point of me raising this issue, that if it is you want persons to make that sacrifice, having adopted a particular position, having adopted to be brave and to demonstrate a level of temerity, to come forward and do the right thing, then treat them in the right way. Ensure that they are protected, secured, comfortable actually. And that is what is not occurring under this current administration with respect to this particular agency. It cannot be then that in witness protection in 2022, that persons are in a secure, allegedly secure home, and that there are no steel doors, there are no security cameras, there's no special response team that can respond to the home in the event that there's a breach, that officers at the home in some instances lack proper gear with respect to PPE and body armor, and they are still using pistols when these rogue individuals out there, marauders out there, have high-powered rifles. If one of those individuals gets the locations of a witness in one of those homes and they go to breach that house, what is the position for the witness in that house? What is the position for the officers in that house who are under-resourced and in some instances don't have the manpower as well to be able to repel any type of attack? And that is the position. That is what I'm putting out there for those who are in authority with the responsibility to treat with those issues. That is the whole point of bringing up this issue with respect to witness protection in Trinidad and Tobago, that the government just needs to do more. They need to do better.
Yeah, and that's one probably the principal reason why people sort of opt out, or after some time and they get to understand, the ways in which their own freedoms and liberties are circumscribed and are not provided for properly, they leave.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't mean to laugh about it or chuckle about it. It's not facetious at all. It's an extremely serious situation. But I remember growing up, I had a friend of mine who lived in a particular area. I won't disclose the location because I don't know if the house is still being used as a witness safe house. And I remember going to visit that friend on a number of occasions and hearing a lot of quarreling back and forth between the witness and the police about the state and condition of the home and whatnot. I mean, I was about, 14 or 15 years at the point in time. And I was telling myself, I said, but this can't be witness protection in Trinidad and Tobago. The stuff that you would hear coming out from the home at the point in time. And that is why I made the statement on Sunday that I am aware, having discussed it with my political leader, that she was aware when she was getting into government that this was an issue that had to be dealt with. And hence the reason why she amalgamated a lot of resources under this Ministry of Justice to be able to treat with situations like that. Because she as well too was seasoned with that of information that witness protection was under-resourced and persons would complain, and that the statements and the testimony of witnesses was critical in the fight against crime and in terms of having successful convictions when matters reach before the court.
You'd say that there were measures that were taken to try and help the situation, to improve it under that administration, and what has happened with it? It's been...
Right. So as far as I'm aware, from sources within the United National Congress and also reliable sources who are working within the system now and would have worked within the system under the partnership administration, a lot has changed. For instance, the homes that they go to before under the partnership administration, they were fortified in a particular way. They were located in particular areas. There were significant patrols within the area, and the way and the officer was specific in saying how that would occur. So you're not going to reveal to the police within that particular district that a house within the district is being utilized for witness protection, but a cable or transmission will go out to indicate that within this particular district or location, increased patrols should be carried out. And so you would have that patrol moving around ever so often, so that there was a sense of security. The witness would feel more safe, or safer actually, because that patrol would have been there. There was also a response team. It wasn't specifically dedicated to the witness protection program, but they would have also been within the location in the event that something was to happen, that they could respond in a timely manner. The officers also would have had a properly stocked home, insofar as all the sundry and whatnot would have been taken care of by the agency having the resources to do so. And when you juxtapose that particular position to now, it has changed dramatically, and dramatically for the worse. And that is why these issues have come to the fore. And persons, when they would have seen what would have taken place with those two witnesses, they reached out to me and to others and said, listen, somebody needs to say something, because we've been saying and speaking about this for quite some time, and nobody is doing anything about it. If you want a person to give testimony, then ensure that the conditions that they're coming to live under for quite some time, 6-7 years, is properly well taken care of.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Mr. Sobers, thank you very much. Sean Sobers, the former Opposition Senator, raising the issue about not enough attention and not enough seriousness is attached to the witness protection program in the country. Stay with us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we begin taking you around the region. Before we get to our further discussion with Pandit Rujanath Maharaj on the continuing issue about the government's attempts to build this school in an area that people are protesting. There's a group in San Fernando dead set against it. Stay with us.
Whether it's a room for 1, 2, 3 or more, there's a room waiting with the ocean view almost to your door. Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, the perfect getaway when you don't want to travel far. The Cocoa Reef Resort and Spa, Crown Point, Tobago. Call 639-8571 for your reservation.
Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union. Your Christmas is safe with us at PCU. Police Credit Union. Police Credit Union.
Get an easy zero-interest Christmas loan at Police Credit Union today. Borrow up to $25,000 with affordable monthly payments. New members, you get up to $10,000. No interest, no installments until January. Apply online at www.policecreditunion.com. Loan subject to credit approval.
Make every occasion a sparkling celebration with Rosabella alcohol-free wine.
Toast cheers with hourglass rays. Rosabella, live life with Rosabella sparkling drink. Celebrate!
At Belgroves, celebrating life is our commitment with integrity, compassion, and dignity for your loved ones. Belgroves Funeral Home and Crematorium, serving Trinidad and Tobago for over a century.
I'm joined on set today with Dr. Chelsea Garcia. She's a palliative specialist as well as internal medicine doctor as well as hospice care.
Palliative is for anyone with serious illness, whereas hospice is for someone that may die in the next 6 months. Now, unfortunately, because people confuse the word palliative with hospice, we see a lot of patients presenting late in the course of their illness.
So the first part about holding off the stick is knowing how to hold it. You're only allowed to play with the flat side of the stick. So the ball is not allowed to hit the back of your stick whatsoever.
What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Living in victory every day.
Inspire, motivate, encourage, hope. It's about topical issues. It's about everything that you would want to know about hope, about life. At the end, you're going to say, yes, if he can do it, I can do it too. If she can, I can do it too.
No matter what they say, living in victory every day.
Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
Welcome back to the program. Moments from now, we'll be talking with Pandit Rudranath Maharaj, the spokesperson for the organization known as the Concerned Citizens for a Better San Fernando. They are against the government's intentions to put up a school in an area, he says, they say was dedicated to remain as a green space in the middle of an already crowded section of the city with schools and other kinds of activity. Before we go there, however, let's just take a quick look around the region as we do. We're talking here about St. Lucian, which it is said that another young man has been lost to the epidemic of gun violence in the country. The murder toll now stands at 62 for this year thus far. That is in St. Lucia. Let's take a look at this.
A shooting in the Babono community on Thursday night claimed the life of Fort Kenny resident Mollings Delis. A simple, casual night sitting on the porch outside his mother's home would prove fatal for Delis when a lone gunman opened fire in his direction.
Somebody came up and shot him. And I guess there were people around, and when they heard the shot, they saw the person run back.
A brother of the deceased who spoke to members of the media on Friday morning on condition of anonymity says the devastating news would come from a younger sibling.
I got a call from my younger brother about 9:30, letting me know that an incident happened at my mother's place. He told me that my brother got shot and that he was not in a good condition. When I got to the house, the ambulance had already gone with him.
According to law enforcement, officers were dispatched to the scene around 10 p.m. and on arrival received information that an ambulance had already transported the shooting victim to the OKEU hospital. The brother of the deceased says he too made his way to the medical center, but the prognosis was grim.
But they said that he was already discolored when he got there. His pupil was already dilated, and also his he was not responding to any of the treatments that they gave him. So they pronounced him dead at about 10:28.
Described as a jolly young man, Dalice's brother has fond memories of his playfulness.
He was all about enjoying himself and living life. I mean, that's what. I mean, there are certain times you used to see, gas a hotkey pay, gas a map pay, gas a say enjoy come.
So why was the young, light-hearted man violently taken away from his loved ones? Family members are stumped when it comes to a possible motive behind the murder. The mourning brother hopes that justice will be served swiftly.
I don't think it's going to be a situation where we're going to be able to put a hand grip on what's going on right now, because I believe that it is out of control right now.
Anyone with information regarding this incident is asked to contact the nearest police station or the Major Crime Unit at 456-3754 or for anonymous reporting at 555.
All right, so that's St. Lucia. Well, back here, and now we're talking now with Pandit Rudranath Maharaj, spokesperson for the organization known as the Concerned Citizens for a Better San Fernando. They are against what they see as a determination of the government and its agencies, the Housing Development Corporation as well as the Ministry of Housing and Settlements, to put up this school in an area where they say it should not happen. There were some developments on that as we headed into the weekend last week. Dr. Pandit Maharaj is updating us on what that situation is. Good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson, and a very good morning to all of the viewers on. I just want to make a slight correction in terms of what you said. It's not an objection to a school by any means. It's an objection to an HDC housing development. That's been proposed there. So just to recap for the benefit of viewers, because I know there have been a number of other pressing national issues and regional issues and international issues. Just about a month ago, just prior to Diwali, we were advised by way of our own observations of certain works taking place at the site on Todd Street by way of person surveying and so on. And our inquiry led us to the information that there was a proposed multifamily development being proposed for an area of land that sits between two established secondary schools, and that is in the proximity of 5 other schools on a very narrow thoroughfare known as Todd Street. Now, for the benefit, again, of persons out of San Fernando, the reality is that Todd Street is a 2-lane road. It joins the Rienzi Curtin Highway to the south, and it goes up to Rushford Street on the north. And on that road, there are a number of residents who've been there for decades. There is the San Fernando West Secondary School, which is known as Old Tech locally. That's where the technical school used to be. Then to the south of that, there's the San Fernando Central Secondary School, which is known as ModSec. That's been there for several decades. And then there's the TML Primary School, which would sit to the east of that, and then Todd Street is on the west. There's also Asher Boys College, which is opposite, Asher Girls College, which is also opposite, Asher Primary School, which is also opposite that, and also the Shri Krishna Kindergarten, which is obliquely opposite the site. So when we saw and we heard of this without any formal consultation or formal notification from any authority, what we recognized and what the information that came to us was that on the 8th of September of this year, a decision was made by Cabinet to transfer those lands, which are state lands, and which always was a green zone designated for the purposes of the schools and for green space. The decision was taken by Cabinet to transfer those lands to the HDC. And we became very concerned. And when I say we, I mean all of the stakeholders that I've just mentioned. And we came together on the Wednesday after, so just in a matter of a couple of days. And everyone unanimously said, 1, we were never consulted, and 2, we vehemently object to that idea for many very good reasons. So that discontent was voiced, and we had very hasty responses coming very quickly, both on the media and from the MP for San Fernando West, who came to meet with us, but who could not and who did not say, and he said very clearly that I'm not giving an undertaking that no housing will go there. And that was a clear signal to us that there was no reconsideration of that decision to vest those lands in the HDC. And I want people to be very aware, you have state lands. And if you are vesting state lands in a special purpose company, and that decision is already taken, and you look at the mandate of that special purpose company, which is to build houses, then there's only one clear signal coming. So as a result of that, we got ourselves together in a more coherent way. We solicited the views and the objections, we documented those. And we immediately, in the absence of any wanting to meet with us, because we did communicate with both the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Planning. Unfortunately, the latter would have left to attend the COP27 meeting abroad, and we have not had a response from either. So with that being as it is, and with the deadline in terms of contemplated action being upon us, we dispatched a pre-action letter. And that pre-action protocol letter, which was done by our team of attorneys who've all volunteered to assist us in this, because I think they all recognize the tremendous problem that this will cause for all of the stakeholders, and of the detriment to any prospective house owner that is going there if this development were to materialize. A pre-action letter was sent off on the 14th of November. And that pre-action letter calls upon the Honorable Prime Minister, because it is a cabinet decision, and so the letter has to be directed to him, to basically reconsider and to retract that decision. And we've set out in great detail all of the reasons why that decision should be rescinded. And we've asked the Honorable Prime Minister to give a response on or before the 28th of November. That is more than reasonable in our view, and it's definitely more notice than we got. And to date, what we've gotten is an acknowledgement that they have received the letter, and a statement that that letter has been passed to the Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Reginald Amor, and his team to respond to that letter. As of today, we have not been privy to any response that has been forthcoming. So it is unfortunate that something as serious as this has not attracted the kind of vigor and the kind of attention that we saw leading up to the decision of Cabinet. Because as I said before, the haste with which that decision was made was unprecedented. I've never, ever seen something like that. And for us to have responded in the manner in which we did, in such a timely manner, and not been having the benefit of any response from any of the state agencies in a meaningful way, I think it's unfortunate. I think it's disrespectful to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and particularly the citizens of San Fernando.
All right, a couple of questions. When you say that the MP, you said he wasn't giving an undertaking for the project, do you understand that to mean that he was in no position, or is in no position to give that undertaking, or he's using his prerogative to say that there will be no undertaking?
I think it was the latter, that he was saying that they have basically decided that housing is required in that particular area, and that was the area in which he was intent on having the housing go.
Yeah. And the other question is, the government seems to be responding to this. I'm sort of focusing entirely on the UNC and not on the sort of the coalition of interests that you represent in the position. Yeah. And and you've made that point before. It is wider than a straight political issue.
Well, I'll tell you something, Mr. Johnson. Our society, and I think everybody appreciates this, is a very polarized society. And it is unfortunate that when serious issues come up, whether it be issues of flooding, infrastructure, particularly crime, and anybody voices some concern that is not aligned to the government of the day, and I'm not speaking about this present government, but any government of the day, from the time you voice that concern, you immediately align with the opposition party of the day. And that is an unfortunate situation in this country. And I think there are tens of thousands of persons who are, hold views that are not aligned, and we are but one of them. And we are saying that what we are looking for is proper governance, proper decision making, and proper development in a sustainable way in all that you do. And I asked the question: why is it in a country like Trinidad and Tobago, where so many billions of dollars have flowed through this country over the years as a result of oil revenue, that we find ourselves in this predicament now in all facets of our society? And I mean, you see the daily complaints about infrastructure, you see the daily complaints about healthcare and education, and I could go on in terms of the list of litany of woes, right, about the lack of diversification of our economy in a meaningful way. And you ask the question, why has this been allowed to happen? And it has to do with the fact that the political structure is the way it is. So if a ruling party, whoever it may be, is in power, and independent persons who are looking at things, in a very reasonable, in a very logical and methodical way, and saying, listen, what you are doing here is ill-advised. Why is it that persons like that would be aligned, or well, you're just part of the opposition? And very clearly, that was a challenge that we had. And our group took real pains to ensure that we kept this as far as possible apolitical and to keep it in the limelight as something that is independent, because we said, and we keep saying it, this is symptomatic of greater problems in our country, right? In terms of how decisions are made, the fact that decisions are sometimes done for expediency, it's done in an unreasonable and irrational manner. It is done to the detriment of key stakeholders. And we are saying that, yes, we recognize that there's the need for housing in Trinidad and Tobago. That was the first thing that was uttered from my lips on behalf of the group. But what we are saying is that that choice of site is ill-advised. And we are asking the question, why there? Why not in another site where you have the room, you have the benefit of doing it in a proper planned manner? Our Minister of Planning went to the COP27 summit and they're talking about sustainable development. You're talking about the effects of climate change. And we are seeing it in front of us. And anybody who knows that terrain, if you put down a housing development there, you are asking for disaster in terms of the adjoining schools, in terms of flooding and so on.
Yeah, I want to ask this as a sort of look at this for a moment, that maybe it's not our model of democracy, but there are different models of democracy in which the position of a member of parliament or parliamentary representative has to be founded on the views and the likes and the dislikes of the people they represent. That is not the case in our model, so that the member of parliament could stand aside and stand sort of distant from the concerns of his or her constituents when an administration takes a decision to do A, B, or C.
I'm glad that you say that, because, there has been a call for constitutional reform for a long time, and I'm a firm advocate of that, because I think that our constitution has, in many measures, outlived its usefulness, and there's a time now, and that time has been around for a long time, to revisit that model. But having said that, it is interesting that there's a whole thrust towards local government reform and to empower the local government authorities in terms of what they're doing in their various geographical regions and their various areas of jurisdiction. But it is interesting that the San Fernando City Corporation, which has oversight for this area, is completely in the dark about this matter. And if you are saying that I'm a proponent for local government reform, why is it that a key stakeholder like the City Corporation was not involved in this at all? And that is disrespectful to your key stakeholder in the area. So even if the local government areas or talk about local government reform is true, then you don't wait for certain things to roll that out. You start incrementally dealing with it, and you can do that within the current paradigm that you have. And that speaks to communication. It speaks to consultation. It speaks to understanding what goes on in an area before you make a decision. And all of that speaks to proper governance. And what we're saying to the Honorable Prime Minister is, sometimes when leaders are backed into a corner, they come out fighting. And we're saying this is not an area. We are prepared to dialogue. We are firmly seeking to have this matter resolved amicably. And that's the reason we've sent off the correspondence, including the pre-action letter. That doesn't mean litigation. It gives you an opportunity to reconsider in light of all of the matters we're saying. And I want to say to the public of Trinidad and Tobago that the true sign of any leader of strength is recognizing when an error has been made and having the strength to say that this is a wrong decision. And as a strong leader, I'm prepared to retract that decision. You will earn more respect than anything else if you do that. And we just have to look now at what is happening in West Indies cricket. That's a buzzword now. Phil Simmons has recognized and taken responsibility. He's resigned. Nicholas Puran, I understand yesterday, has taken the responsibility and he's resigned as captain. We're not calling on the Prime Minister to resign at all, but the Honorable Prime Minister, understand that these are your citizens. These are your citizens. These are citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. When they've come out, we've come out and we've set out very logically the reason why that decision is a bad decision. And we are humbly asking you to rescind that decision. And we expect, as a strong leader, that you will consider that carefully and you will understand the merits of our argument. This is all that we are asking.
And to back it up, there are alternatives that some of you have put forward as to where...
Yes. There are many alternatives that we've put forward. And I think any right-thinking agency looking at those arguments in an independent, impartial way will see the merits of that. They will see the demerits of trying to put a housing development in the middle of that area. And they would respectfully say, okay, we've heard, we've made a wrong decision, we change our mind, we rescind that decision, and we will go elsewhere. That's it.
Is there anything that has been said or that you all know as to why the authorities and the interested parties in the government appear to be thus far adamant about citing the project there as opposed to anywhere else? Something we like to talk about what's going on behind the scenes, who may have got what.
I don't want to speculate that. I think those facts will come out in the future. The facts, as they would say, speak for themselves, and persons who are in the know, they know. That's what I would say. All we are saying is that we don't want to go down that road at all. And the facts, if they come out, will be embarrassing for some officials. So we don't want to go there. But we are just saying that if you look at this in a reasonable way, and you look at it in an independent way, you would recognize that this is a poor decision and it would be rescinded.
Yeah. So at this point, the matter is going to go ahead in the court.
Well, no. Right now, the ball is entirely in the hands of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, and we are saying that this is an opportunity for them to dialogue. I'm a firm advocate in dispute resolution, and I believe that it opens the doorway. It has opened the doorway since we've made the overtures. And it's really up to them. We are not inclined to see any more taxpayer dollars go down in legal fees, or wasting resources or wasting the court's time. That's not what we're about. We're about proper decision making and proper consultation and reasonable decisions. So it's not a fait accompli that we are going to court. The ball, whether that happens, is now entirely in the hands of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. If they want to go down the road of the court, opportunity and that forum, then we have no choice. We'll have to do it.
So you wait for the 28th to see what happens?
We wait for the 28th to see what happens, and if there is not a favorable response, or if there's no response, then the signal is very clear to us. We are not being treated with, we are not being considered, and this is a signal to the rest of the citizens that it's unfortunate that our authorities would treat citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in this manner.
Pandit Rudranath Maharaj, spokesperson for the concerned citizens for Better San Fernando on this issue. Thanks again for talking with us on this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, and all the best to you and the viewers and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Have a very safe and productive day ahead.
Thank you very much. And we will continue to stay in touch on this.
Sure.
All right, just as we head up to the top of the hour on our next news break, let's take a look again at what's happening outside. In Jamaica, parents call for urgent intervention as students in a primary school are caught using cigarettes, e-cigarettes, they say. We have a report from TVJ.
To other news now, there are concerns this evening from parents of a primary school in Manchester where several students have been caught using e-cigarettes or vaping. But how did they get access to the device? Anthony Lugg has the details.
It seemed like a normal day at the Spalding Primary School on Thursday morning, except for the fact that there were more parents than normal on the campus. The parents were summoned to an emergency meeting to discuss a range of issues, to include the startling revelation that more than a dozen students were using a vape device at the institution on Wednesday.
There's a vape that bought at the Chinese that the student use it, puffing it, and it caused them to black out.
The e-cigarette uses a battery to heat up a special liquid into the aerosol that users inhale. The effects of vaping are severe. Scientists say it's bad for your heart and lungs. The device used in Wednesday's incident is said to have been purchased by a student from a store in Spalding. It's alleged students were then charged to use it. The incident has led some parents questioning how the student was able to purchase the device in the first place.
How can you sell an 11-year-old student in a uniform, a primary student, these things to come and contaminate the school?
Now, we tried to get a comment from Principal Mr. Desmond Robinson. However, he told me he was not prepared to speak with our news team at this time. Shortly after our interview request, staff members were quickly called into a meeting. The details of that meeting are still unclear. We then visited the location where it said the item was purchased to get an idea of the cost.
Mommy, how much for them? Vape.
16.50. The issue of substance abuse among young children has been worrying. The National Council on Drug Abuse has been urging parents to remain vigilant following a rapid situation assessment conducted in May this year. Uki Atkinson is research analyst at the NCDA.
It cannot just be about the economics and being able to make money, and therefore you're not concerned about who you're selling these substances to. We have to deal with morality and the fact that exposing young people to this is detrimental not only to their future, but the future of the entire society.
All right, and that comment takes us up to the top of the hour. We're going to take a break. We have news at 7. On the other side of that, what is likely to be a very explosive discussion. Well, the subject of what he's talking about is potentially quite explosive. It's called Urban Reality, Afro Youths versus the Police Extrajudicial Killings in Trinidad and Tobago. August Khalil Saif. That's the title of a book he has written and put out there. We'll come back to that on the other side. Stay with us. This is AM Prime.
Your WESN News on the Hour. I am Marquise Akers. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Graphic audio details ordeal faced by divers at Commission of Inquiry. Man murdered in Sham Flare. Electrician granted $100,000 bail for sexually touching of girl 3. And internationally, Indonesia quake death toll rises. Now for the details. The anguished cries by the 5 divers who were sucked into a pipeline in February. 4 would never make it out. The Commission of Inquiry into the deaths of the 4 pariah fuel trading divers resumed on Monday. On February 25th, Christopher Budram, Faisal Kurban, Rishi Nagasa, Kazim Ali and Yusuf Henry were sucked into the 30-inch diameter pipeline they were performing maintenance work on. Budram managed to be rescued, but his colleagues all drowned. Audio and footage via GoPro camera, which was strapped onto Kazim Ali Jr., was played during the evidentiary hearing. The man could be heard making an attempt to find a way out of the pipeline.
You won. You want to fight once again all the time? Right now, we are fighting. Right now. Who else with you? We are fighting alone. God for you. Right there. Right there where? That's a good question. God, everything all right with you? No. And your leg break? Oh, your leg, all right. Fight. Anything happened to you? Yeah. A fight? No way. God, anything happened to you? Yusuf, anything happened to you? No.
Counsel to the Commission, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, says OSHA found that most of the team lacked competency and experience in the offshore exercises.
The risk assessment and job safety analysis done by LMCS was neither suitable nor sufficient for the task. LMCS emergency plans reveal that the plans did not identify and make provisions for emergency scenarios based on an assessment of the potential risk of the works to be done.
One man is dead following a shooting incident in Champlain on Monday. Reports say the man was at Sagan Drive when he was gunned down by an unknown assailant. Investigations into the incident are ongoing. A 28-year-old electrician was granted $100,000 bail with a surety when he appeared before the Port of Spain Magistrate Court. The accused, who was charged with one count of sexual touching, was also ordered to stay 100 feet away from the victim and to have no communication with the victim directly or indirectly. On 29th February 2020, a woman arrived at the Child Protection Unit South-Western Division and reported that whilst at home she noticed her 3-year-old daughter with her hand inside her pants. She told the officers that when questioned further, her daughter allegedly indicated that a man touched her private parts. In international news, an earthquake on the main Indonesian island of Java has killed at least 162 people and injured hundreds. The 5.6 magnitude quake struck Kanjo town in West Java at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, according to U.S. Geological Survey data. Scores of people were taken to hospital, with many treated outside. Rescuers were working into the night to try to save others thought to still be trapped under collapsed buildings. The area where the quake struck is densely populated and prone to landslides, with poorly built houses reduced to rubble in many areas. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Marquise Akers. Thanks for watching.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back to the program. Let's tell you, this book the title is Urban Reality, Afro Youths versus Police, Extrajudicial Killings in Trinidad and Tobago. It's written by Khalil Kofi Saif. He's our guest now. There's some explosive stuff, or potentially explosive stuff in this publication. I wanted to welcome into the program and to ask you, Saif, what has been the reaction to this? And before we get into some of the details, what has been the reaction to you to this book?
Well, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, the reaction has been extremely positive in the sense that the book was written with a specific aim and objective. The aim and objective is to expose what takes place in the life of the day-to-day citizens, especially those who live in the ghetto, what we will describe as the ghetto, how they survive, how they react with politicians, how they interact with the police, and how they interact among themselves. So the book was specifically written so that the youths could get some guidelines. It was written simple language with guidelines as to how the youths could alleviate
So
themselves.
essentially, the audience you went after were young people who are they're vulnerable in their communities, are getting involved in things that maybe they shouldn't get involved in. You want them to get a sense of what the reality is out there.
Yes, of course, and not only that, but they have to get involved in terms of what is taking place in the country and assist in bringing a direction so that they themselves could enjoy a better life.
And let me just tease the audience a little bit. One of the things I want to pick up on is that you say in here Trinidad and Tobago is a narco state, and you gave some examples of what you mean by that. You say all the institutions, well, at least most of them from high to low, are caught in that web to some extent and to some degree. But before we go there, I inherit this assignment from Mr. Lee Singh, and yes, he was well through the book. And he makes notes as he goes along reading. Right? So he has some questions, and I wanted to just put here to make sense of, to give him a sense of the fact that we're addressing some of what he considered to be explosive stuff. He said, you write that they have spent billions of dollars through the Ministry of National Security, which has done absolutely nothing to curb crime or the fear of crime.
Well, clearly, I mean, it is one of the salient points in the book. Every year, billions of dollars is spent in the Ministry of National Security. And we can see the result. What is the state of affairs in Trinidad and Tobago as we speak? The murder rate is uncontrollable. It is uncontrollable. Police killing still in existence. Nothing. The fear of crime is real, and I myself now experiencing what people has been experiencing in Trinidad for quite a while. You have to be very cautious in terms of how you attend to things. You have to be very cautious in terms of leaving your home. I never thought I would have had burglar proofing in my home, you know. And I mean, and not only burglar proofing, but also dogs, because crime is real and the fear of crime is real, and Trinidad is
Do you fear for your personal safety and security as a result of some of what you
Not particularly, because, you know, I'm a Muslim and I fear my Lord. And the whole thing is that I want to deal with truth, and I want reality, and I want a better Trinidad and Tobago most of all. So the information that I placed in this book, it is factual. The statistics are there. I got in respect to the police, I got my information from the police service itself. Right?
From the police service, from people in the
service?
Yes,
on Henry Street, yes. I got it I applied and they sent it to me and the email. So all the information there is, nothing is imaginary. Everything is as a matter of fact.
You say eye-openingly in here that the largest shipment of cocaine ever to arrive in the European city of Rotterdam came from Trinidad and Tobago, and it came to Trinidad and Tobago through
South
the normal,
America.
but through the normal legitimate ports in Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain.
Yeah, that is a fact. I mean, it's well known, it has been well documented, and everyone knows that. I mean, if people feel that guns and arms and ammunition has reached the ghetto, I mean, everyone knows that the very few people who live in the ghetto could afford to really import arms and ammunition. So it comes through different channels. I think Dr. Darius Figueroa, has dealt well with this over the years. And he has outlined several times what are the problems in respect to the narco trade and how it impacts the society. And it has a tremendous amount of impact on the society. It's responsible for the internal killing in the various community and also police killing.
Yeah, you describe us as a narco state, and maybe this goes back decades, so we've not now been a narco state.
Yes,
and it's gotten worse.
Well, of course. What I try to do in the book itself is to give everything a logical development by tracing from the days of Randolph Burrows straight down to today. And I look at the flying squad, how they operated, how they perform, and the impact it has on the society today. So I try to link everything so that people can get a clear understanding that these things are not new. All the billions of dollars we have spent in the Ministry of National Security has done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and you talk about, and Lisa makes a point about that as well, and going through it, because living in Arima as we do, we knew about this lady, described her as a drug queen in Arima, Lily Lane. You talk about how she was killed, and you talk about the fact that she was enabled and assisted by members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
That is a fact. No one could deny that she had the backings of very senior police officers. Everyone knows that anyway. That is common knowledge. You from Arima, Andy, you don't know about Miss Lynn?
Well,
everyone knows about her, and they know what her activities were. And as a result of when she was unable to penetrate certain communities, she declared war. And like everything else, people had to defend themselves. And that is what created a major problem.
And you said that a top-ranking police officer wanted to avenge her murder, and he was a dear friend and a protector of hers.
That is a fact. That is a fact. I stated it there, and it is a fact, and it is common knowledge. Most people in Arima have a very clear idea of who that person is, you know. Yeah. And she operated free like a bird, man, you know.
Yeah, and you talk about people being summarily executed by police officers rather than rehabilitate them. I want to suggest to you, put to you that there's some of us in the society who say that more of that is what is required. What is wrong with that? Rather than putting them through the courts to take up millionaires.
Despite we have shortcomings in the criminal justice system, police cannot operate as judge, jury, and executioner. All over Amnesty International has struggled with Trinidad over the years, since in 1970 coming down, to deal with this situation, because it's bad. The police killing in Trinidad and Tobago is atrocious, and it has to be addressed. Amnesty International placed a lot of pressure on Trinidad. As a matter of fact, the next book I've written is Murders, Police Killing from 1970 to today. That situation is atrocious. What happened is that Trinidad needed...
It just focuses on police killings of citizens in one situation.
From 1970, I'll be focusing on...
Woodford Square?
I'll start with Woodford Square, because I have some very interesting story as to the person who was killed, and then because the person from Bataria, we grew up with him. Yes, Basil, we know him well, and I have some real nice bombshell to drop in that book in respect to...
All right, you say that this is a narco state such that most of the legitimate institutions have been penetrated by the power and wealth of the illegal drug trade. For instance,
what is needed basically in Trinidad and Tobago right now, I think the People National Movement had said that they were going to deal with it in 2020, which is campaign finance regulations.
Yeah, reform, campaign finance reform. Yes.
They have to have, that must come into play, because of the power of the drug lords in Trinidad and Tobago, they are in the political parties. And once they are there, as we know, who pay the piper calls the tune.
The leaders and high representatives of our political parties knowingly take money from people who they know to be involved in the narco trade.
But why are they not bringing the laws? Why are they not bringing the regulations? Because they would have to say where the finance coming from. It is clear. The Trinidadians are not really benefiting from the government in terms of contracts, in terms of all those different things. They have to pay back the piper.
And you say in there, you say the drug lords spread their filthy tentacles into the most political institutions. You say the food import bill will provide evidence of the international money laundering into and out of Trinidad.
Yeah, well, I gave a very clear indicator with statistics showing what has been happening to the underworld economy in respect to the drug trade and what percentage of the budget, when you look at Trinidad, like right now, what do we have? We don't have no oil and gas in no major way. We don't have any, if we sold as much as the pitch against the condition of the roads.
Yeah.
So where the money coming from?
Yeah. And then you talk about what I consider to be the competition, if you like, between certain elements in the police service and people in the gang sort of hierarchy.
Yeah, well, I did indeed dealt with that to a certain extent.
And you say that the Rasta City group was a creation of police officers in Trinidad and Tobago.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I can clearly and openly say that because I know the history it is written here.
Yeah.
If you want to get the details right there, but
Yeah.
I want to
talk about how that came about, with contests involving police officers to control aspects of the drug trade.
Yeah, well, of course, as a Muslim and as a member of the Jamaat al-Muslim, we don't really condone that aspect of it. But that still doesn't exonerate the fact that there are Muslims who are involved in that type of activities for some reason or the other. And it became very competitive. It became competitive. And I think anybody on the ground will tell you it became very competitive, but one of the main things is that the police themselves normally control the streets. The police control the streets in a major way. Yeah, well, basically everyone knows that. I mean, because everyone knows, if you come in the community in Arima, any young man could take you by every drug dealer. All the police doesn't know where to go and who to look up. Yeah. How come in any community it's common knowledge?
Some of what you wrote in here sent me back to the killings of so-called gang leaders or community leaders one by one after the summit that was held at it was the Crown Plaza at the time with the then Prime Minister Patrick Manning. And I just called a couple of names. Kerwin Fresh-Pierre was taken out at a corner on uptown Port of Spain. Mark Guerra, and the list goes on. You say that was all part of the internecine warfare among people fighting for turf, and police officers were involved.
Yes, I stated that. And one of the things I want to mention that most of the killings in the communities originate from civil disputes.
Yeah, you make that point in here.
Whether the dispute, whatever it is, but if civil dispute are not dealt with expeditiously, it leads to criminal activities. You see, like for example, if you remember in 1991, with Rodney King in LA, the LAPD was the most reactive police force in the world, very reactive. After the demonstration from the 1991 Rodney King issue, they had an independent commission set up by Warren Christopher. And Warren Christopher recommended community policing as a means to curb, because the LAPD was very corrupted too. Part of his investigation indicated that they were extremely corrupted. And he recommended community policing, and it assisted in such a major way that in the late 90s, New York
NYPD
introduced community policing as part of the NYPD program. You know, so that.
But we've spoken about it on a number of occasions, and to some extent it was introduced, but probably just by name, just in name. This whole concept of community policing. We haven't gotten to the essence of what that is or what it should be.
I do not think that they made any major effort to deal with it, because that is what would curb the police killing. It will also curb police involvement in the drug trade, in the blocks and things. Yeah. So I think they never really made any major attempt to implement community policing. I heard the acting commissioner spoke about it, but I hope he's serious about it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, and you talk about the killing of the lady named Bernadette James, who was a police officer who was killed. That had been rumored on the ground for years, and you called the late Selwyn Richardson. I mean, the reason why I'm calling his name now, he's dead. You know, they say dead man, they can't sue, but you named somebody else who was a minister in the government who were aware of what had transpired as to what she saw and why she was killed.
I made inferences state, but that story is really belongs to the Imam. I really don't know much of the details. All I wrote is basically
because he said that,
he said,
and that Richardson and others were involved. And would you suspect that? Would you suggest then that may have been the reason why Mr. Richardson himself was taken out in the way that he did?
I don't know. As I said, that issue with Bernadette James, I got that from the Imam. I cannot substantiate it 100%. But you know the Imam, I love him and I trusted him, so I made mention of it. But I cannot give any more details because I really don't have the facts. Yeah. I was just talking about. And
he said that was part of the reason that led it to 1990.
Well, I didn't even deal with 1990 in any major way. I look at post-1990 because I wanted to deal with the things that are affecting the youths and them right now in Trinidad and Tobago.
This chapter 6, it's headlined, Politicians uphold the narco economy. And just let me just read the first paragraph. The nightmares, the sleepless nights, the pain and agony experienced by relatives is etched in my psyche. I knew the 5 innocent people who were killed at Wallerfield because Soward was the intended target. On that fateful day, Lincoln Ford, using the same car, had taken Soward to Juma, after which he went to the bank and collected the salaries for his staff and made his way to the Jacob Hill construction site. The police officers at the first roadblock that greeted Ford and the workers from Malabar, just as they exited the construction site, were from the area. So they knew that Soward was not in the car. You're talking about the situation here.
Yes. Well, the person who Daryl Harrilal was at the Express at that time. Yes.
He's now an attorney.
Yeah, and he's now a very good attorney. And Daryl is the one who was up to date with what was taking place. We were corresponding. He did an extremely great job because he visited
you were still working in the Express, or you had gone?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I had gone. So I was on the streets that time. Yeah. So Daryl was the one who really did the bulk of the work. Sudat Prasad did some work too. He was at the TNT Mirror at that point in time. Yes, Sudat also did some work. And, well, the process was really guided by Wayne Sturge and deceased lawyer Mervyn Mitchell. Yeah. Wayne was also very, very helpful.
Yeah. And you talked about some of that in your Sturge, and you said that in the end, it was determined that some of the information published by Hiralal was incorrect.
Well, yes and no, in the sense that I think the police wanted to deny the information that he was imparting to the population. So as a result, you will see in the book where the magistrate managed him attempted to manage him in terms of the type of information he put out on the press and those sort of things. But they reached nowhere because they went to the Privy Council with the matter, and the Privy Council denied the police the opportunity to enjoy the benefit of anything because of the incident that took place. It was one of the saddest moments in my life to witness the death of the 5 people. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the president, they were getting no justice from the criminal justice system. You know. It's the president, after he held a protest, President Maxwell saw
George Maxwell Richards.
Yeah, man,
Yes.
he President Maxwell.
You see also that Abdul Karim, the former Lion Marshal, was stabbed to death by a police officer while he was being apprehended.
While he was being apprehended, yes. That's a matter of fact. I mean, that's common knowledge. That pre-1990.
Yeah, he was stabbed to death, but I don't think that most people
would remember. They might remember.
It was a police officer.
Yeah, it was a police officer.
And to a large extent, that matter itself remains unresolved as to
who
did it and why.
Yeah, but that I mean, the youths and them. What happened is that the youths living in the ghetto always have to reinvent the wheel because no one's taking the opportunity to sit down and give them some guidance as to how to deal with the social problems that confront them day to day. And next in the government, what do you think? When do you think they deem something as a social problem? The government of Trinidad and Tobago does only make statute law when certain sector of the population complaining and feel the life is being threatened. The same people who I talk about is the same narco people who influence the government to make oppressive laws against the people. The government doesn't try to solve the people's problem. What they do, when these people feel threatened, they lobby the politician. They deem it a social problem and they create laws. If the whole of Laventille, the whole of Mova, the whole of the ghetto suffering with malnutrition, you feel the government will say that is a social problem. That will affect the society because it will affect the ability of the children to learn and those sort of things. But when these big shots feel threatened, and they say they feel the life might be attacked, then is when they lobby the government, and then is when the government declares it a social problem and create laws. Like all the laws they make for gun to take away bail, no this, no that, no, because people feel threatened, the fear of crime is real.
Yeah, the point I wanted to get into, maybe you'll have to do a round two because you talk about the fact that the Jamaat al-Muslimin in a lot of cases took in youngsters whose parents didn't want them because they had made a time in prison and your philosophy is such
that has been the history of the Jamaat because because most of the people who come to the Jamaat, where they came from, Christian homes. But when they go to prison and the prison term is up, when the parents and them don't want them back in the house, where they end up? One more corrupt road. What you could do? As Muslims, we can't turn them back. We have to keep them and try with them. Some are successful, some fall through the crack. But the burden of the responsibility, everybody watching the drama, they look at the criminal, where they will go and in, but first and sleep. Yeah?
All right, we gotta leave it there, my friend. Thank you very much, Khalil Saif. There'll be other discussion about what is in here and the reactions and repercussions. But that's our broadcast for this morning. We want to thank you very much. We want to thank all our guests, including, well, particularly this gentleman, Khalil Saif. The book is entitled Urban Reality, Afro Youths versus the Police, Extrajudicial Killings in Trinidad and Tobago. You should check it out.
Thanks very much, Andy.
We ask you to stay with us here. You can keep in touch with us here at WESNCC on all our social media platforms, and you can send your emails to amprime@wesncc.com. In half an hour, we have news at the top of the hour, followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Shah and Small. But for now, thanks for watching. I'm Andy Johnson. We'll see you tomorrow.
WESN.
Dear Santa, this year has been rough. Prices